I'm supposed to be chocolate covered Katie, but somehow somebody keeps eating all this peanut butter, and I think maybe there's a ghost. I haven't figured it out yet. If you love chocolate, I've got you covered. This dessert is so delicious that when you find out it's secretly healthy, you're gonna be like, what the fudge? Let's get to it. Today we are making healthy Butterfingers, and I'm actually going to start with one of my favorite sweeteners, blackstrap molasses. In most recipes, you can't really use blackstrap molasses by itself. It's not as sweet as other sugars, so you have to add another sweetener too. But I love adding it because it's such a healthy sugar. Blackstrap molasses is actually a sweetener that surprisingly has health benefits. You get calcium and iron in 1 tablespoon of blackstrap molasses, so I like to sneak it into recipes anytime I can. And in these Butterfingers, it works great. The recipe that inspired this one, I actually found in a thrift store recipe book that had 1 cup of sugar, 1/2 cup of shortening, and 3/4 cup of corn syrup. They sound like they were screaming for a healthy makeover. And anytime I see a recipe that's screaming for a healthy makeover, I'm like, challenge accepted. So I changed up the recipe quite a bit, but they tasted like something I couldn't put my finger on. So I had the rest of my family try them, and they were all like, oh, this is like a Butterfinger. And as soon as they said it, I knew, yes, that's exactly the taste I was tasting. So I'm gonna put a little bit of agave in here. There's no corn syrup in this one. A lot of traditional recipes include corn syrup as an ingredient. I don't really use corn syrup in my recipes, and so I'll try to use healthier sweeteners. And this recipe, I've cut it down to just 3.5 tablespoons of sugar, which is a lot less than 1 cup. You can also use unrefined sugar, coconut sugar works. And now we're gonna turn the heat on just to low here. And I'm gonna just stir this all together just until the sugar dissolves. So as soon as it starts bubbling, we're gonna let it cook for 1 minute, and then we're gonna turn off the heat. When I was younger, I did a lot of charity work. I did a lot of things that would help others. Running the blog kind of took my focus off of that for a while, especially after college. And I was focused more on me, and I realized that I'm sending money to these charities, but I'm not really doing more than that. Especially in the past year, I've started to really realize that there's so much more that I could be doing than just sending money and pretending that these things don't exist. And I've really started to get back more involved, and I want to do that even more.
So Lucky Dog, we are an all-breed dog rescue. We are what we call volunteered powered, so almost everything that we do is done by volunteers. And our goal is to rescue, rehabilitate, and rehome animals from high-kill shelters. Don't just want to adopt these animals out though, we want to make sure that they go into what we call loving forever homes. So it is both rescue and it's also education. You know, we have really just grown substantially. We have over 1,500 active volunteers. We have over 200 foster homes. We really rely on the support of our volunteer network. People really like to volunteer with us because you can see the tangible difference, right? You can see the animals that wouldn't be safe without your help.
If you see a lot of dogs and you hear about, there are thousands of dogs that have been abandoned, a lot of people feel overwhelmed and they say, oh, well, I'm just one person, I can't do anything. But when you adopt 1 dog, you see that you've changed that 1 life. You have saved a life. You are 1 person now and you have done something big.
Right, it's the power of 1. It's an amazing power.
So now I'm gonna turn off the heat and I'm gonna move my skillet over here. And I'm going to add the peanut butter, which is the important part. It makes them Butterfingers. My favorite way to eat peanut butter is in the jar with a spoon, but it also is in a lot of my recipes. I use it in cupcakes, I use it in cakes. You don't have to use oil then, or butter. And if you want, you can use almond butter, cashew butter, or sun butter if you want to make them tree nut free. And just a little bit of salt, just 1/8 of a teaspoon for the entire recipe to get the sweet salty balance. So I'm going to stir it all up until it's nicely combined here. Really get the peanut butter thinned out. The warm sugar's helping to melt the peanut butter here. It's kind of funny, my blog is chocolate covered Katie, but I actually probably eat more peanut butter than chocolate. When I went home to make the bars that ended up being the healthy Butterfingers, I knew that I already had peanut butter in my pantry because I always have peanut butter in my pantry. In fact, I always have about 12 peanut butter jars in my pantry. I'm supposed to be chocolate covered Katie, but somehow somebody keeps eating all this peanut butter and I'm the only one who's there, so I can't really blame it on anybody. When I was younger, my friends and I would go to the movies and I would always get 2 or 3 packages of Butterfingers. I'm not saying it was healthy. This is one of the reasons that I had to come up with healthy desserts because I love dessert and I don't want to do moderation. And with these, you can feel a lot better about yourself at the end of the night that you haven't just eaten 3 candy bars with 3 days worth of sugar. Oh my gosh, this looks so good already. While I'm really proud of my success as a blogger, I know that I was really lucky at the same time to have the advantages that I had that enabled me to start this blog in the first place. And I really want to give back to people who might not have ever had that advantage in life. Every day is an opportunity to be better and do better.
We raised enough money to charter a plane to fly back after Hurricane Maria, so we chartered a plane for 111 animals. It was a cargo plane, and this is out in Virginia where they landed. And these are all the people that we brought with us. That whole line of trucks was there to divide up all the animals. They were going to 4 different rescues. So we were able to save 111 animals that day.
I think it's just so amazing what you do. Like, you are literally saving lives, you're changing lives, not just the lives of the dogs and the cats, but just the lives of their homes that they go into. So now we're going to add the corn flakes. If you want to add bran flakes instead, or you can use rice flakes, any kind of flake cereal will work really well. You just crush them really well, and that's what gives it the real Butterfinger crunch. So I'm going to add 1.5 cups of corn flakes here. So now we're going to stir this all up, take all your stress of the day out on these corn flakes. Really crush them up here. Corn flakes just give it that classic Butterfinger crunch. And then you get the toffee-like consistency from the peanut butter and molasses. It's really looking good right now. You want to make sure while you're doing this that all the cornflakes are evenly coated, all crushed up, and it's just one nice batter here. I could just eat this batter with a spatula. I can't say I haven't done that before, I have. And now I'm going to take an 8x8 pan that is lined with parchment paper, and I'm just going to put all of this into the 8x8 pan. You want to just get every last little bit out of the pan. And now I'm just going to smooth this down evenly. You just want to get it into every edge, make sure that it's even, and it will fill the bottom of the 8x8. If you want, you can put a second sheet of parchment paper over top of all of this and then smooth it down that way if that's easier for you. So on my website, I do healthier Mounds bars, healthier Reese's peanut butter cups, healthier York peppermint patties, all the classic candy bars. I even have Snickers ice cream bars. It's always great to have a healthier way to eat your favorite candy bars. All right, now that this is all spread out, I'm just going to chill it in the freezer. I've always worried a lot about suffering. I really don't like to see suffering, whether it's human suffering or animal suffering, and I try to make my footprint as small as possible. Growing up, we had purebred dogs, and then as we got to learn more and more about animals in shelters and the whole process of how many dogs are in need, I switched and I was like, I'm never buying a purebred again, and we've had such amazing shelter dogs. I think what really draws me to animals is that they can't speak for themselves. They're really innocent and they need protection, and that's actually what made me become a vegan in the first place. I donated money to a place called Best Friends. Through them, I got on a mailing list and learned about like slaughterhouses and everything. But it all started out because I love dogs. I decided to be a vegan, and it wasn't about being healthy. It was just about animal welfare and worrying about how they suffered. It wasn't until I started to really take care of myself and eat healthier foods that I started to learn more about the health benefits of veganism. So I went vegan first, and then I learned about the health benefits, which was like, great, well, I'm already vegan. All right, so I just took these out of the freezer, and now comes the best part, the chocolate-covered part. I mean, they're good without it, but I always add it. I don't need to tell you why, because you know my name. Here we go, melted chocolate is going on these Butterfingers. I'm gonna come back to that bowl later and make sure that it gets cleaned. Smooth this on here, and I will be eating that spoon later too. All right, I'm gonna put these in the freezer just for a few more minutes, and then they'll be ready to cut. All right, these are ready. They've spent a few minutes in the freezer. You don't want to freeze them too long because then the chocolate will get hard and the Butterfingers will crack when you go to cut them. They're really great if you freeze them because then they last longer, and if you have a chocolate craving or a candy bar craving, you just go to the freezer and pick out a healthy Butterfinger. And they don't taste healthy at all. So I've only frozen these a few minutes, and now I'm gonna cut them into Butterfinger shapes. You can cut them into squares, you can cut them into bars. I'm gonna do bars here. And these look so good. You can freeze them a little bit longer if you want, but I can't wait to try one.